Family secrets don't always stay hidden. What if the people you love most decided to humiliate you on your birthday? Would you swallow it or turn the tables in a way they'd never forget? I overheard my mother and sister whispering in the kitchen about their cruel plan to hide my birthday cake, to teach me a lesson about not being the center of attention. They had no idea I was listening. They had no idea what I was capable of. This isn't just about a cake. It's about finally showing my family I'm not the weak one they think I am. My name is Rachel Donovan, and I've been the reliable one in my family for as long as I can remember. At 34, I work as a loan officer at Cedarview Community Bank here in Ohio, helping families secure their dreams while my own seem to slip further away. Single, independent, and recently dipping my toes back into dating with a guy named Ethan. I've built a life that should make any parent proud. But in the Donovan family, pride is reserved for others, never for me. Ever since Dad passed away 6 years ago, I've become the family's unofficial coordinator, accountant, and safety net all rolled into one. When Mom needs help with her property taxes, she calls me. When my older sister Claire wants someone to watch her 3 kids so she can have a mental health day at the spa, guess who gets the call at 6:30 in the morning? When my younger brother Aaron forgot to book a restaurant for Mom's birthday last year, I not only found a last-minute reservation but also paid the deposit, which he still hasn't paid back. I don't mind helping. That's what family does. Right. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being Rachel the person and became Rachel the resource. My success at the bank, where I've been promoted 3 times in 7 years, gets mentioned in passing at family dinners, usually followed by Claire rolling her eyes and making comments about how some people are married to their jobs. Meanwhile, her husband Jake's promotion to regional manager at a hardware store chain warranted an entire celebration dinner that I, naturally, organized and partially funded. Mom, Evelyn Donovan, treats my independence like it's a consolation prize rather than a choice. At every family gathering, she finds subtle ways to remind me that Claire gave her grandchildren and Aaron is building something special with his startup that's been hemorrhaging money for 2 years. But Rachel, oh, she's doing fine at the bank. Very stable. She says stable like it's a synonym for boring. The irony is that I'm the one they all turn to when life gets complicated. When Claire's husband had that gambling scare, who did she call sobbing at 11:45 at night? When Aaron needed a cosigner for his business loan because his credit was shot, who vouched for him? When Mom's roof needed emergency repairs after that storm, who handled the insurance claim and covered the deductible? Yet at family gatherings, I'm invisible until someone needs something. I watch Claire get praised for her sacrifice as a stay-at-home mom, though she has a full-time nanny, while my 12-hour days ensuring families don't lose their homes during economic downturns barely register. Aaron's entrepreneurial spirit is celebrated even as his ventures fail, one after another, while my steady climb up the corporate ladder is met with polite nods and subject changes. They don't see the late nights I spend reviewing loan applications, trying to find ways to approve families who are on the edge. They don't know about the financial literacy workshops I run on weekends for underprivileged communities. They certainly don't care that I've been quietly paying off Mom's medical bills from her surgery 2 years ago, letting her believe her insurance covered more than it actually did. What hurts most is how they discuss my life when they think I'm not listening. Poor Rachel. I've heard Mom tell her church friends. She tries so hard, but some people just aren't meant for the marriage and family life. As if my worth is measured solely by my relationship status. As if everything I've achieved vanishes because I don't have a ring on my finger. Dating Ethan these past few months has been a breath of fresh air. He sees me not as someone's sister or daughter or the family ATM, but as Rachel. He admires my ambition, laughs at my dry humor, and doesn't think my independence is something that needs fixing. For the first time in years, I've started to believe that maybe I deserve to be celebrated too. Which is why I decided this year would be different. This year, for my 35th birthday. I wouldn't let it slide by with a half-hearted card from Mom and forgotten promises from my siblings. This year, I would plan something special, a proper dinner with my family and Ethan, a chance to blend my worlds and maybe, just maybe, feel like the center of attention for once. I should have known better. In the Donovan family, some roles are carved in stone, and mine was never meant to be the star. For weeks, I'd been planning my birthday dinner with the kind of attention to detail I usually reserved for complex loan applications. Nothing extravagant, just a nice evening at Mom's house with the family and Ethan. I'd suggested we cater from that Italian place everyone loves, even offered to cover the cost. Mom insisted she wanted to cook, said it would be more intimate. I should have recognized the first red flag, but I was too caught up in the possibility that they might actually want to celebrate me. I'd been dropping hints about introducing Ethan properly to everyone. We'd been dating for 4 months, and things were getting serious enough that I wanted my family to know the man who made me smile like an idiot at random moments during the day. He'd already heard plenty about them, probably too much, but he was eager to make a good impression. "They're important to you, so they're important to me," he'd said, and I'd nearly cried right there in the restaurant. 3 days before my birthday, I stopped by Mom's house to drop off some documents she needed for her Medicare enrollment. I had my own key, so I let myself in quietly, not wanting to disturb her if she was napping. The house smelled like coffee and cinnamon, and I could hear voices coming from the kitchen, Mom and Claire, their tones low and conspiratorial. I was about to announce myself when I heard my name. "Rachel's really pushing this birthday dinner thing," Claire was saying, and something in her voice made me freeze in the hallway. "She's been texting me about it all week. You'd think she was turning 21, not 35. Mom laughed, but it wasn't warm. "She's always been like this. Remember when she was little, always needed to be the center of attention. I thought she'd grow out of it." My stomach clenched. I pressed myself against the wall, knowing I should leave but unable to move. "The boyfriend's coming too," Claire continued. "Ethan or Evan or whatever. She's probably already planning their wedding in her head. You know how desperate she gets." "Now, Claire," Mom said, but there was amusement in her voice. "Your sister means well. She just doesn't understand her place sometimes." "Her place," Claire scoffed. "Mom, she lords her bank job over everyone like she's some kind of CEO. Aaron feels it too. She made him feel so small about that loan situation." I wanted to scream. Aaron had begged me for that co-signature, promised he'd never miss a payment. He'd missed 3 before I quietly took them over. "You know what we should do." Claire's voice had taken on that gleeful tone I recognized from childhood, when she'd come up with ways to exclude me from her friend groups. "We should hide the birthday cake." There was a pause. Then Mom said, "Claire, that's childish." "No. Hear me out. We bring it out after dinner, make a big show of forgetting it. Then after she leaves, we can enjoy it with the kids. It'll be hilarious. Plus, it'll teach her a lesson about expecting everyone to drop everything for her birthday. She's 35, not 5. My hands were shaking. This couldn't be real. This had to be some kind of sick joke. But Mom was laughing again. "You're terrible. But it would be funny to see her face. She does make such a production out of birthdays." "Exactly. And honestly, she loves the spotlight so much. This year we'll remind her she's not the center of attention. We'll pull the cake out after she and that boyfriend leave. The kids will love it. I'll tell Aaron he'll think it's hilarious." "Make sure you do it before dinner," Mom said. "Hide it in the garage refrigerator. She never looks there." They kept talking, planning their cruel joke, discussing how they'd play innocent, how they'd act like they simply forgot to order a cake. "Times are tough," Mom practiced saying. "We thought a nice dinner was enough." I stood there in my childhood home, listening to my mother and sister plan to humiliate me on my birthday, and felt something inside me break, not shatter dramatically, but crack, like ice under pressure. All those years of being reliable, supportive, generous, none of it mattered. To them, I was just a joke, someone whose feelings were worth less than a few laughs. I backed away slowly, my heart pounding so hard I was sure they'd hear it. I made it to the front door and slipped out as quietly as I'd entered, in my car. I sat staring at the steering wheel, my mind racing. The documents for Mom's Medicare were still in my hand. I thought about tearing them up, letting her figure it out herself for once. But no, that wasn't the answer. As I drove away, their laughter echoing in my memory, I realized something they'd just given me a gift. They'd shown me exactly who they were, and more importantly, they'd freed me from any guilt about what I was going to do next. Sitting in my car outside Mom's house, I couldn't stop the memories from flooding back. They came in waves, each one more painful than the last, forming a pattern I'd been too blind or too hopeful to see before. My 30th birthday. God, what a disaster that had been. I'd mentioned for weeks that I wanted to do something special for the milestone. Nothing crazy, just dinner at that new steakhouse downtown. The day came and went with radio silence from my family. When I finally called Mom at 7:30 that evening, she'd said, "Oh, was that today Claire had a pediatrician appointment for little Tommy? Maybe we can do something next weekend." Next weekend never came. I ended up paying for my own dinner, sitting across from a college friend who kept checking her phone, wondering why I was pretending everything was fine. Then there was my promotion to senior loan officer 2 years ago, a position I'd worked 60-hour weeks to earn. I'd called Mom immediately, breathless with excitement. Her response, "That's nice, dear. Did I tell you Claire's pregnant again?" The family group chat, usually buzzing with activity, managed just 2 thumbs-up emojis from Aaron and nothing from Claire. But when Claire's husband got a $500 bonus that same month, Mom organized an impromptu celebration dinner. The birthday jokes had been escalating for years, now that I thought about it. My 31st, "Aren't you too old for birthday parties?" My 32nd, "Single women your age usually just celebrate with their cats." My 33rd, "We figured you'd be working late anyway." Last year, my 34th, Claire had actually said to my face, "Birthday celebrations are really for kids and people with families to celebrate with." But it wasn't just birthdays. It was everything. The Thanksgiving when I cooked for 12 hours straight because Mom's arthritis was acting up, only to overhear her tell Aunt Linda on the phone later that evening that she felt fine, but Rachel needs to feel useful. The Christmas when I spent $800 on thoughtful gifts for everyone and received a generic candle set from Mom. Nothing from Claire because she forgot. And a text message from Aaron saying his gift was still in transit. It never arrived. There was the time I graduated from my MBA program night school while working full-time had nearly killed me. I'd invited them all to the ceremony. Mom came but spent the entire time talking about how Claire was considering going back to school when the kids are older, as if my actual achievement was just a conversation starter for Claire's hypothetical plans. Aaron didn't show up at all, claiming car trouble. I saw his Instagram posts from a bar that night. Rachel doesn't need much. I remembered Mom telling our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, at a barbecue last summer. She's married to her job, very independent. Not like Claire now she needs support, with the kids and all. Mrs. Patterson had looked at me with pity, and I'd excused myself to cry in the bathroom. The pattern was so clear now. Every sacrifice I made was expected, never appreciated. Every achievement was minimized, dismissed as typical Rachel, always working. Meanwhile, Claire's mediocrity was celebrated making cupcakes for a school bake sale warranted a Facebook photo album, while my volunteer work teaching financial literacy to single mothers didn't even merit a mention. And Aaron Golden Boy Aaron with his string of failed businesses, each one funded by loans I'd helped secure, connections I'd provided, advice I'd given freely. He'd text me only when he needed something. "Hey sis, can you look at this business plan?" "Rachel, I need a reference for this application." "Can you spot me $2,000 until next month?" That $2,000 had been 14 months ago. The worst part was how they talked about me when they thought I couldn't hear. At Claire's daughter's ballet recital, I'd gone to get programs and came back to hear Claire telling another mom, "Rachel's here because she doesn't have her own kids' events to attend." It's kind of sad, actually. At Mom's book club meeting that I'd dropped in on to deliver her forgotten reading glasses, I'd heard her describe me as successful but struggling in other areas, if you know what I mean. They never saw me rushing from the bank to the hospital when Mom had her surgery, sleeping in that uncomfortable chair for 3 nights because Claire couldn't handle hospitals and Aaron was swamped at work. They didn't know about the calls I'd made to get Mom the best surgeon, pulling in favors from bank clients. They certainly didn't appreciate that I'd been managing Mom's medications, organizing them weekly in those little plastic containers, because she kept forgetting what she'd taken. Every family photo on Mom's mantle told the same story. Claire's family portraits in expensive frames, Aaron's graduation photos prominently displayed, and just one photo of me, tucked in the back, from 5 years ago. I'd given her a beautiful recent photo from a professional headshot session. It was nowhere to be seen. The cake wasn't about sugar and frosting. It was about what I'd always been to them, the one whose feelings didn't matter, whose presence was useful but not valued, whose birthday was an obligation to be mocked rather than a celebration to be honored. The reliable Rachel who would always show up, always help, always forgive, and never demand the respect she deserved, but sitting there in my car, replaying their cruel laughter in my mind, I realized something had shifted. That crack I'd felt inside wasn't breaking me, it was breaking me free. I drove home on autopilot, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I was shaking not with sadness, but with rage. Pure, crystallized rage that I'd been suppressing for years. Inside my house, I paced my living room like a caged animal. Should I call them out right now? Send a scathing text to the family group chat. Show up at Mom's door and confront them. Every scenario I played out in my head ended the same way they'd gaslight me. Tell me I was being too sensitive, that it was just a joke, that I couldn't take a little family teasing. I grabbed my phone and called Nina, my best friend since college and the only person who'd been brutally honest with me about my family dynamics for years. Rachel, what's wrong? You sound, they're planning to hide my birthday cake. The words tumbled out, along with everything I'd overheard. By the time I finished, I was crying, angry, bitter tears that I'd been holding back for too long. Nina was quiet for a moment. Then, I'm coming over. Pour yourself a wine. Pour me one too. 20 minutes later, she was on my couch, listening as I spiraled through my options. I could just not show up, I said, refilling my glass. Tell them I'm sick. And let them win. They'll just reschedule and do the same thing. I could confront them at dinner, in front of Ethan. Nina shook her head. They'll turn you into the villain. You know how this plays out suddenly? You're the dramatic one who ruined a nice family dinner. I stared into my wine. So what do I do? Just sit there and take it. Pretend I don't know they're planning to humiliate me. Nina leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with something I recognized from our college days when she'd helped me plot petty revenges against terrible roommates. Rachel, honey, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Do you want them to remember your birthday, or do you want them to remember your revenge? What do you mean? I mean, you've been letting them treat you like a doormat for so long. They think you don't have a spine. They think you'll take whatever they dish out because that's what you've always done. But Rachel, you're not the same people-pleasing girl from 10 years ago. You're a successful woman with your own money, your own life, and your own power. Use it. How? Nina smiled. You're a loan officer. You analyze risk and reward for a living. You plan complex financial strategies. So plan this like you'd plan a $1 million loan portfolio. Don't get mad, get strategic. Something shifted in my chest. The shaking stopped. The tears dried up. Nina was right. I'd been reacting emotionally when I should be thinking tactically. They want to humiliate me by hiding the cake, I said slowly. They want to make me feel small and forgotten. So I make sure that can't happen. I take control of the narrative. Nina raised her glass. Now you're thinking? We talked until 2 in the morning, Nina helping me see what I'd been too close to recognize. This wasn't about one birthday cake, it was about years of disrespect. And if I handled this right, it wouldn't just be about revenge. It would be about finally, definitively showing them that I was done being their doormat. "You know what the best part is," Nina said as she got ready to leave. "They have no idea you heard them. They're going to walk into that dinner thinking they're the directors of this little play. They don't know you've already rewritten the script." After she left, I sat at my kitchen table with a notepad, approaching this like I would a complex loan restructuring. Assets, my financial resources, my connections through the bank, my relationship with Ethan, my friendship with Nina and others, liabilities, my emotional attachment to family approval, my history of forgiveness, their expectation that I'd never fight back. The plan started forming in my mind, clear and precise. I wouldn't just expose their cruelty, I'd make them witness what they'd pushed away. They wanted to hide my cake. Fine. I'd make sure there was something they couldn't hide, the reality of who they were and what they'd lost. I called in sick to work the next day, something I never did. I needed time to prepare. My boss was shocked. "Rachel Donovan, taking a sick day, are you dying?" but approved it immediately. That's what happens when you build a reputation for reliability. People don't question the rare deviation. Sitting at my computer, credit card in hand, I began making arrangements. This wasn't about being petty or childish. This was about self-respect. This was about drawing a line in the sand and saying enough. My family thought they knew me. They thought I was predictable, weak, desperate for their approval. They were about to learn that the quiet ones, the reliable ones, the ones who keep the peace, we're the ones you should never push too far, because when we finally push back, we don't do it halfway. The breaking point had come and gone. Now it was time for the reckoning. The next morning, I started executing my plan with the precision I usually reserved for multi-million-dollar commercial loans. First stop, Bellissimo Bakery, where the owner, Marcus, was one of my clients. I'd helped him secure the loan for his expansion 2 years ago when every other bank had turned him down. "Rachel, what brings you in so early?" Marcus beamed as I walked through the door at 7:30 in the morning. "I need 2 cakes for my birthday dinner tomorrow night," I said, getting straight to the point. "And they need to be very specific." Marcus grabbed his order pad, intrigued. I'd never asked him for anything beyond the occasional pastry box for office meetings. The first cake small, simple, white frosting, generic decoration. Write "Happy Birthday Family" on it. Nothing special, almost deliberately plain. He raised an eyebrow but wrote it down. "The second cake," I continued. "I want it to be spectacular. 3 tiers. Chocolate and raspberry, my favorite that my family never remembers, decorated with fresh flowers and gold leaf. Write "Happy 35th Birthday Rachel" in elegant script. Make it the most beautiful cake you've ever created." Marcus whistled low. "That's quite a contrast. Special occasion." "You could say that. I'm teaching my family a lesson about appreciation." He studied my face for a moment, then nodded. "The spectacular one that's going to be about $400 with rush delivery." "Perfect. Can you deliver the plain one to this address?" I wrote down Mom's address. "At 4 in the afternoon. Leave it on the back porch. No knock, no doorbell. Then bring the spectacular one to the same address at 7:15 tomorrow evening. I'll text you when to bring it in." Marcus grinned. "Sounds like dinner theater. I'm intrigued." Next stop, Maple Row Bistro, the upscale restaurant where I'd taken several high-net-worth clients. The manager, David, practically glowed when he saw me. "Ms. Donovan, how can we help you today? I need a private dining room for tomorrow night. 7:30, party of 8, full dinner service, your best menu, champagne service. For tomorrow, that's very short notice. I know you keep the Aurora room available for VIP walk-ins. I'll pay the premium rate." David smiled. "For you, of course. May I ask the occasion?" "My 35th birthday. A celebration with the people who actually value me." I spent the rest of the day making calls. Nina was immediately on board. Of course, my colleagues from the bank, Jasmine and Robert, who'd become real friends over the years, were delighted to be included. Tom and Sandra, The couple from my book club who'd always wondered why I never talked about my family. Accepted immediately. And Ethan Sweet. Supportive Ethan was confused, but willing to trust me. So we're going to your mom's for dinner, but then leaving for another dinner, he asked over the phone. Just trust me. I promise it will make sense tomorrow night. Rach, are you okay? You sound different. I'm better than okay. I'm finally awake. That evening, I called Mom to confirm dinner. My voice was perfectly normal, even cheerful. Just checking we're still on for tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Of course, dear, she said, and I could hear the suppressed amusement in her voice. Just a simple family dinner. Perfect. Ethan's looking forward to meeting everyone properly. How nice. Claire's bringing the kids, and Aaron said he'll try to make it. Try to make it. For my birthday dinner, of course. Oh, Mom, do you need me to bring anything dessert maybe? There was a pause. No, I've got everything handled. Liar. I sent a group text to Nina, Jasmine, Robert, Tom, and Sandra. Tomorrow, 7:20 sharp, park down the street from this address. Wait for my signal to come in. Dress nicely, we're going somewhere special after. The final preparation was the hardest, choosing what to wear. I pulled out a dress I'd bought months ago but never worn. A stunning navy blue cocktail dress that made me look like the successful professional I was, not the frumpy afterthought my family saw. I laid out my grandmother's pearl necklace, the one Mom had given me grudgingly, saying, Claire wanted these, but I suppose you should have something. Looking at myself in the mirror, I practiced my surprised face for when they'd pretend to have forgotten the cake. Then I practiced my real surprise, the one they'd see when they realized I'd known all along and had orchestrated something they never saw coming. My phone buzzed with a text from Claire. Reminder that dinner's at Mom's tomorrow. Don't be late. And maybe don't talk too much about work stuff. The kids get bored. I texted back. Wouldn't miss it for the world. And I meant it. Because tomorrow night, my family was going to learn what happened when you pushed the reliable one too far. They wanted to hide my birthday cake. I was going to serve them a slice of reality they'd never forget. The trap was set. All that was left was to walk into their ambush and turn it into mine. I arrived at Mom's house at exactly 7 o'clock. Ethan beside me looking handsome in his charcoal gray suit. I'd told him to dress up, that I wanted to look special for my birthday dinner. He'd brought flowers not for me, but for my mother. Ever the gentleman trying to make a good first impression. You look incredible, he whispered as we walked up the driveway. That dress is stunning. Thank you, I said, squeezing his hand. Remember what I told you tonight might get interesting. Mom opened the door wearing her everyday cardigan and slacks, the kind of outfit she'd wear to the grocery store. The contrast with my cocktail dress was deliberate. I realized, make me look overdressed, trying too hard. Rachel, you're here, and this must be... She paused, as if struggling to remember the name I'd mentioned dozens of times. Ethan. Mrs. Donovan, it's wonderful to finally meet you, Ethan said warmly, offering the flowers. Rachel speaks of you often. How nice, Mom said, taking the flowers with barely a glance. Everyone's in the living room. The house smelled of pot roast, the same meal she made every Sunday. Nothing special. Claire was on the couch, scrolling through her phone while her 3 kids played on their tablets. She looked up, took in my dress, and smirked. Wow, Rachel, it's just family dinner, not the Met Gala. It's my birthday, I said simply. I wanted to feel special. Must be nice to have time to get all dressed up, she said, gesturing at her own casual jeans and wrinkled blouse. Some of us have real responsibilities. Aaron arrived 15 minutes late, still in his gym clothes. Sorry, lost track of time at CrossFit. He didn't wish me happy birthday. Dinner was exactly what I'd expected. Mom served the pot roast on her everyday dishes, not the china she used for Claire's anniversary dinners. The conversation revolved around Claire's kids' school activities, Aaron's latest business idea, something about crypto that made no sense, and Mom's book club drama. Every time Ethan tried to steer conversation toward me or my work, someone would interrupt or change the subject. "So, Rachel helped this wonderful family save their home last week," Ethan said during a brief lull. "She worked overtime to restructure their loan." "That's nice," Mom cut in. "Claire, tell Ethan about Madison's dance recital." And off Claire went, monopolizing the next 20 minutes with a detailed play-by-play of her 8-year-old's mediocre ballet performance. I caught Ethan's eye and gave him a small smile. He squeezed my knee under the table, clearly baffled by my family's behavior, but too polite to say anything. Throughout dinner, I noticed the little glances between Mom and Claire, the barely suppressed smiles. Aaron kept checking his phone, but I caught him smirking once or twice. They thought they were so clever, so subtle. They had no idea I was counting down the minutes. As Mom started clearing the dinner plates, I felt my heart rate pick up. This was it, the moment they'd planned. "Well," Mom said, returning from the kitchen empty-handed. "That was lovely." Claire stretched dramatically. "Yeah, I should probably get the kids home soon. It's a school night." "Wait," I said, my voice perfectly confused. "Isn't there dessert?" Mom and Claire exchanged a look of fake surprise. "Oh, honey," Mom said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "We didn't. I mean, at your age, I didn't think you'd want a big fuss. We kept things simple this year." "You're not a little girl anymore, Rachel," Claire added, barely hiding her glee. "Birthday cakes are really for kids." I let my face fall, just for a moment. Let them think they'd won. "Oh, I just thought—" "Times are tough for everyone," Mom continued, the line she'd rehearsed in the kitchen. "We thought a nice dinner was enough." Ethan started to speak, his face flushed with anger on my behalf, but I placed a hand on his arm. "It's okay," I said softly, then louder, with a smile. "Actually, you're right. I did bring something myself." The confusion on their faces was priceless. I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text. 30 seconds later, the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," I said, standing smoothly. At the door stood Marcus himself, holding the magnificent 3-tier cake like a trophy. Behind him, visible through the doorway, Nina was getting out of her car, followed by my other friends, all dressed elegantly for a real celebration. "Special delivery," Marcus announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Happy 35th birthday, Rachel." I turned back to my family, their mouths hanging open as I ushered in my actual celebration, the one with people who genuinely cared about me, the one with a cake that cost more than Claire spent on her kids' birthday parties, the one that made their simple dinner look exactly as mean-spirited as it was. "I hope you don't mind," I said sweetly. I invited a few friends to join us for dessert. The transformation of Mom's living room was instant and absolute. Nina walked in carrying champagne, real champagne, not the cheap sparkling wine Mom bought for New Year's. Jasmine and Robert followed with an enormous bouquet of roses, while Tom and Sandra brought in elegantly wrapped gifts. My friends filled the space with genuine warmth and excitement, their presence making my family's coldness even more apparent. "Happy birthday, Rachel," they chorused, and Marcus set the spectacular cake on the coffee table where everyone could see it. The 3 tiers gleamed under the lights, fresh orchids and gold leaf catching everyone's attention. It was the kind of cake you'd see at a society wedding, not a simple family dinner. Mom stood frozen by the kitchen doorway, her face cycling through emotions: shock, embarrassment, and something that looked like anger. Claire had actually taken a step backward, her smugness evaporating as she watched my friends pop the champagne cork. "Everyone," I announced, my voice clear and strong, "thank you so much for coming to celebrate with me. It means the world to have people here who actually want to celebrate my birthday." Nina raised her champagne glass, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "To Rachel, who deserves to be celebrated every single day, not just on her birthday. The most generous, accomplished, and underappreciated person I know." Hear, hear. Robert added. The woman who saved my mother's house from foreclosure and never let me thank her properly. And who stayed late for 3 weeks to help us qualify for our dream home, Sandra chimed in. Even though we weren't high-value clients, each toast was a deliberate dagger, highlighting everything my family ignored about me. I watched Mom's face redden with each praise, Claire's jaw tightening as she realized how much these people genuinely admired me. Aaron tried to slip toward the door, but Ethan smoothly stepped into his path. You must be Aaron, he said loudly. Rachel's told me so much about you. Still working on that startup. What was it? The fourth one. Fifth. Aaron mumbled something incoherent, trapped between Ethan and the wall of my friends who were now singing Happy Birthday at the top of their lungs. The contrast was stark, this jubilant, genuine celebration versus the mean-spirited joke my family had planned. I cut the first slice of cake with deliberate ceremony, making sure everyone watched. The inside was as gorgeous as the outside layers of rich chocolate and raspberry. Exactly what I loved. Exactly what my family never bothered to remember. This first piece, I said, looking directly at my mother, goes to Nina, my chosen sister who's never forgotten a single birthday in 15 years. Mom flinched. I cut the second piece. This one's for Ethan, who drove 2 hours after a long workday just to be here for me tonight. Claire's kids had wandered over, drawn by the magnificent cake, their eyes wide. Mommy, why didn't we get Aunt Rachel a cake like that? Madison asked innocently. We did get a cake, Claire stammered. It's in the kitchen. No, it's not, little Tommy said. I saw you and Grandma put it in the garage yesterday. You said it was for after Aunt Rachel left. The silence was deafening. Nina broke it with a laugh that could have cut glass. Oh my God, you hid her birthday cake. What are you, 12? I stood up, still cutting cake slices for my friends, my movements calm and controlled. It's okay, Nina. They wanted to teach me a lesson about not being the center of attention. I looked directly at Claire. Message received. Rachel, this is inappropriate. Mom finally found her voice. These people weren't invited. Neither was basic human decency, apparently, Jasmine interjected. But here we are. I finished serving my friends, deliberately skipping my family. The plain cake Marcus had delivered earlier sat forgotten somewhere, probably still on the back porch where he'd left it. That was for them, for after I left, for their little inside joke. This cake, this celebration, was mine. You know what I said, raising my own champagne glass. I want to make a toast to family, both the one we're born into and the one we choose, to the people who see our worth even when we forget it ourselves, to those who celebrate our victories instead of diminishing them, who support our dreams instead of mocking them, who show up not because they have to, but because they want to. I looked at each of my friends, then at Ethan, my voice steady and clear. Thank you for showing me what real family looks like. Thank you for being here tonight, for making my 35th birthday absolutely perfect. Mom's face was purple now. Aaron had his phone out, probably looking for an escape route on Uber. Claire was trying to hustle her confused kids toward the door, but Madison had planted herself in front of the cake. Mesmerized. We should go, Claire hissed at her children. Now. But we didn't sing happy birthday to Aunt Rachel, Madison protested. And she didn't open her presents. What presents? I asked innocently. Oh, right. The ones that don't exist. Just like the cake you hid. Just like the respect you've never shown me. The room was electric with tension. My friends stood firmly around me, a protective wall of genuine affection that my family had never provided. And in that moment, surrounded by people who truly valued me, their cruel joke completely backfired. I felt more powerful than I ever had in this house. The moment had come for my final act. I carefully packed up the remaining 2/3 of my spectacular cake, making sure my family watched every deliberate movement. Rachel, we need to talk about this. Mom sputtered, her composure finally cracking. "You've completely misunderstood." "No," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I understood perfectly. I heard you and Claire planning this whole thing 3 days ago. Every word about hiding the cake, about teaching me a lesson, about how I always need to be the center of attention." The color drained from both their faces. Claire's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. You were there," Mom whispered. "I came to drop off your Medicare documents," I said. "The ones I spent 3 hours filling out for you because you couldn't be bothered to learn how to do it yourself. Just like I handle your taxes, your insurance claims, your prescriptions. But sure, I'm the one who needs to learn a lesson." Ethan moved to stand beside me, his hand on my back, solid, supportive. Everything my family wasn't. "You want to know what I learned?" I continued, looking at each of them in turn. "I learned that family doesn't hide birthday cakes. Family doesn't mock your achievements while celebrating mediocrity. Family doesn't take your support for granted while plotting to humiliate you." Aaron finally spoke up, defensive. "Oh, come on, Rachel. It was just a joke." "Was it a joke when you forgot to pay back the $14,000 I've loaned you over the years? Was it a joke when you all skipped my MBA graduation but threw a party when Claire made Pinterest crafts for the PTA fundraiser?" I picked up my purse, my friends gathering the champagne bottles and gifts. "You know what the saddest part is. All I wanted was one evening where you pretended to care about me. Not my bank account, not my connections, not what I could do for you, just me. But you couldn't even give me that." "Rachel, please," Mom said, and for the first time in years, she looked genuinely rattled. "Let's discuss this like adults." "We are," I said. "I'm choosing to spend my birthday with people who value me, and you're going to spend it with that sad little cake you hid in the garage, explaining to Madison and Tommy why you thought it would be funny to hurt Aunt Rachel's feelings." Madison tugged on Claire's sleeve. "Mommy, did you really hide Aunt Rachel's cake to be mean?" Even an 8-year-old understood what they'd done. "One more thing," I said, pausing at the door. "Mom, those Medicare documents are on your kitchen counter. That's the last thing I'm doing for you for free. From now on, if you need help, hire someone. Claire, those summer camp deposits you asked me to cover for the kids, not happening. And Aaron." I looked at my brother who couldn't meet my eyes. "Your next failed business venture will have to find another investor." "You can't just," Claire started. "Watch me," I said. "For years, you've made me feel like I had to earn my place in this family through service and sacrifice. Well, congratulations, you've finally taught me a lesson. I've learned that I don't need to earn something that should be freely given. I've learned that some people will never see your worth no matter how much you give. And most importantly, I've learned that it's okay to walk away from people who only see you as useful, not valuable." Nina opened the door with a flourish, and my real celebration party filed out into the night. As we walked to our cars, I heard Tommy's voice from inside. "Grandma, can we eat the garage cake now?" At the curb, Marcus was waiting by his delivery van, grinning. "How'd it go?" "Perfectly," I said, handing him an enormous tip. "Absolutely perfectly." "The Maple Row reservation is confirmed," he said with a wink. "The Aurora room is all yours." 20 minutes later, I was sitting in an elegant private dining room with people who genuinely loved me, toasting with real champagne, laughing at stories that didn't involve my humiliation. Ethan held my hand throughout dinner, occasionally whispering how proud he was of me. Nina regaled everyone with stories of my college achievements my family never knew about. Robert and Jasmine talked about how I'd mentored them when they started at the bank. Tom and Sandra shared how I'd gone above and beyond to help them achieve their dreams. "You know what?" Nina said, raising her glass one more time as the clock approached 11:30. "I've watched Rachel give everything to people who gave nothing back for 15 years. Tonight, she finally chose herself. And that's the best birthday gift she could have given to herself and to those of us who actually appreciate her." My phone buzzed with texts from my family. "Mom, this is not over." "Claire, you embarrassed us in front of the children." "Aaron, real mature, sis. I deleted them all without responding. Then I blocked their numbers. As I looked around that private dining room, at faces lit with genuine affection and respect, I realized something: I hadn't lost a family tonight. I'd finally stopped pretending I had one to begin with. And in doing so, I'd made room for the family I'd already chosen, the one that had been there all along, waiting for me to value myself as much as they valued me. The birthday cake they'd hidden in the garage, I hope they choked on every bitter bite. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your own thoughts about dealing with family who doesn't appreciate you. Have you ever had to stand up to toxic family members? How did you find the courage to choose yourself? Let me know in the comments below.